Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we'll be taking a look at a recent attempt to infringe upon the religious liberties of U.S. citizens. As of September the 7th, 2016, and we've got this report, this article about a report, Federal Agency Trashes Religious Liberty. And this article, I'll leave a link to it. It's in reference to a report from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights that was released on the 7th, and it's titled Peaceful Coexistence, Reconciling Non-Discrimination Principles with Civil Liberties. I'll also leave a link to the actual report itself. The document, as you can see, was addressed to the President, Vice President, and Speaker of the House. And the document is about 306 pages long, so I really don't expect you to sit and read this entire thing, but I will leave a link to it so that you are able to do that if you would like. So let's take a look at the first part of this document, and this will basically tell us exactly what we need to know in terms of this report and the findings. So it says that the report examined the balance struck by federal courts, foremost among them the U.S. Supreme Court, in adjudicating claims for religious exemptions from otherwise applicable non-discrimination law. The Commission heard testimony from experts and scholars in the field, and the majority of the Commission made findings and recommendations. Some of these findings were that. Okay, so point number 1 and point number 2, we're going to take a look at those. Civil rights protections ensuring non-discrimination as embodied in the Constitution, laws, and policies are of preeminent importance in American jurisprudence. And point number 2, religious exemptions to the protections of civil rights based upon classifications such as race, color, national origin, sex, disability status, sexual orientation, and gender identity, when they are permissible, significantly infringe upon these civil rights. And as the article states, basically the purpose of this report is to review, as it states, the Supreme Court findings and to see if there's any error and infringement upon civil rights and liberties through those Supreme Court decisions. So these Supreme Court decisions based on religious exemptions, we've got, basically there's a specific reason why this particular report would come out and why there would be a committee. So if we're talking about religious exemptions and U.S. Supreme Court decisions, then obviously, that narrows our caseload down in terms of the cases that we're looking at. Now, anytime you're saying that you want to protect, race, color, national origin, sex, disability status, all of those things, obviously everyone would be in support of that for the most part. It's difficult to imagine that people would just stand in opposition outright, generally speaking, about those type of issues. But when it states religious exemptions and U.S. Supreme Court decisions, I believe that the main focus that we're looking at here would be in reference to the last two of those classifications. The last two being sexual orientation and gender identity. And so we know that we've seen a shift here in the United States and pretty much all over the world in terms of the stance on sexual orientation, gender identity. It's been in the news a lot, catches a lot of attention. You see a lot of support and praise for those who stand in support, and then a lot of criticism and ridicule for anyone who stands, in opposition or has a different belief. And so, there would be reason to believe that because there were findings and recommendations made, and because there was a group put together to review these decisions in the first place, that it's And it's it's likely that we would see some type of changes or implementation of some of these ideas expressed through this document. It really goes back to, it actually connects to a couple of videos that I did previously, and I'll leave links to those in the description here with this video. But the first one was the LGBTQ community and the truth about Christians. And in that video, I outlined the reason why a follower of Christ would take a stance in certain aspects, in terms of specifically in regards to sexual orientation and those kind of things. Why a Christian would have the belief that they have, and why a Christian would continue to face opposition, and why they would have to take a stand during that opposition that they would face. And this is another example of the opposition that I referenced there. But to really get an understanding of how that connects, take a look at that video, and you'll see why Christians will continue to cling and hold tight to their beliefs, and again, why most likely there will be continued opposition and attempted removal of that belief system from society. And the second video is titled NWO Illuminati Antichrist Spiritual Connection. And in that video, I outlined the writings of Alice Bailey, and specifically the 10-point plan of Alice Bailey, and how it connects to and how you can see and find various parts of this 10-point plan actually being implemented throughout the world. And just a quick look at some of these points. Number one, take God and prayer out of the education system. Number two, reduce parental authority over the children. There's a consistent theme here that continues to suggest that the removal of God is a requirement, and also expresses a more open lifestyle, more frequent divorces, making abortion legal, and other things outlined through that 10-point plan. Now, a lot of those points would probably sound familiar to policies that you see actually being carried out in your country. If you want to know why that's the case, take a look at that video, and again, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Now, it is a long video, but it's pretty informative. I did kind of pick on Alice Bailey specifically through that video, but she's far from the only person who has writings along these lines that you can actually find being carried out in real policy, real legislation in your country. And so, this just points back to the same type of thing that we've seen, the same thing that I mentioned in that video, that you'll continue to see opposition. You'll continue to see the attempted removal and silencing of the Christians in America. The findings of this report, even if they're specifically in reference to cases such as Hobby Lobby and the others, they're going to lay the foundation to carry over into other aspects. Again, you don't have a committee review a situation unless you suspect that there's something wrong with it, and then it's no surprise that the committee does in fact come out with discoveries and recommendations. Now, again, I have not read all 300 pages of this document. Some of the things that they found may in fact be valid, but rest assured, anything that's a gray area, they'll use anything that they want to in order to get, to further the agenda. And so, we see this carried out. We see it right in our faces each and every day. I think just a couple of weeks ago, if you're into sports, the Atlantic Coast announced that any of their championships that were to be played at a neutral site will all be removed from the state of North Carolina. They will not play those games there, and that, of course, is in response to the bill that's been heavily debated there, the bathroom bill and those other things. And so, this is just another example of that continued push, that continued movement, and basically a cry for me, I guess, in saying, take a stand, continue to believe and hold on to your beliefs in terms of your Christian faith and the love that is Jesus Christ. And again, if there's confusion about that, watch the video I did, and it'll all make perfect sense to you why Christians will continue to bring that message. Okay, but take that stance. Be aware that they are continuing to try and change and restructure the life that you have around you, with all of the distractions, all of these things that are going on. Everyone's paying attention to the election, this side, that side, and all of these other things that are happening. And then while no one's looking, they're forming committees, putting together reports, and making recommendations to the President of the United States about certain things that need to change. So again, we need to pay attention to these things, always be aware. I'll continue to report on this if I see anything else that comes out of it. And if I ever enter into it, then I will also report back to you guys on that as well. So I'll keep my eyes on this. Again, if I see anything else, I'll be sure to let you know. But be prepared for continued reports. Be prepared for continued attempts to remove and silence Jesus in our society. That's just something that we're going to continue to see play out as the years go on. But I'll continue to keep my eyes on these things, share with you guys anything that I come across. And when it comes down to it, if we're in a situation where we need to take a stand and we need to form something together, then I will definitely be on board to support that movement. But again, just sharing this information with you guys. The links will be available in the description. Take a look and see for yourself exactly what they're referring to, and keep in mind that even if it's not specifically referenced through the document, rest assured that anything that carries a similarity to it in terms of a court decision will also be under review. And the timing for reports such as this is something else to look at. We've got the open seat for the Supreme Court, and now you're talking about examining or revisiting some of the Supreme Court decisions. And so the next president, whoever wins this upcoming election, will be able to appoint that new Supreme Court justice. And they have the opportunity to set that up in a 5-4 scenario. And it's also been talked about that based upon the ages of the current members of the Supreme Court, that it's quite possible the next president could appoint 4 justices. And that really gives an opportunity to kind of stack the deck, so to speak, in terms of what you believe and what you want to have implemented throughout the country. So no surprise really in the timing of this report, and it probably gives plenty of time for the newly elected president to review most of the recommendations and propose some changes for the upcoming year. So no real surprise there either. But I just wanted to share this information with you guys. Again, links will be available there in the description. All right, that's it for now.